You've heard of a haunted house, maybe even a haunted forest. But have you ever heard of an entire city named after the terrifying scream of a ghost? To find this story, we have to travel deep into the heart of Indonesia, to a place where myth and history are impossible to separate. If you ask anyone in Southeast Asia to name a ghost, one name will almost always come up: the Kuntilanak. She is the undisputed queen of Indonesian horror, the star of countless movies, the source of a million nightmares. The popular story describes her as the vengeful spirit of a woman who died during childbirth. She returns from the grave to terrorize villages and, specifically, to hunt men. And like any good monster, she has rules. They say you know she's near when you suddenly smell the sweet scent of frangipani flowers. But if the scent gets stronger, it means she's far away. It's when the scent suddenly vanishes and is replaced by the foul stench of decay that you know she is right behind you. Her cry is another warning, a high-pitched shriek that plays a terrifying trick on your ears. If her cry sounds distant, she's close. If it sounds deafeningly close, she's far away, watching you. They even say there's a way to stop her, that if you can find the courage to get close enough and drive a nail into the hole at the back of her neck, she will transform back into a beautiful human woman and become a devoted wife, trapped until the nail is removed. A monster, a victim, a twisted prize to be won. This is the Kuntilanak. The world thinks it knows, but this version of the story is just the ghost of the original tale. The true story is stranger, more historical, and it explains why an entire city bears her name. All right, let's rewind the clock. We're going back to the mid-1700s, the age of sail. The waters of Southeast Asia were a chaotic web of pirates, traders, and ambitious sultans looking to carve out new kingdoms. One of these men was Syarif Abdurrahman Alkadrie. A descendant of the Prophet Muhammad, Syarif was a charismatic and well-respected explorer and trader. He had a vision to build a new, prosperous trading port in a strategic, untouched location. His eyes fell upon a specific spot in western Borneo, a junction where three powerful rivers met, a perfect place for a capital. But there was a problem. The locals refused to go near the place. They warned the Sultan that this land was already inhabited by a powerful, malevolent entity. Syarif, being a man of both deep faith and fearless ambition, dismissed the warnings as simple superstition. He gathered his fleet and sailed towards the jungle delta. As dusk fell on their first night, the jungle, which had been alive with the sounds of animals, fell eerily silent. Then it began. A faint sound drifting from the dense mangrove trees. A woman weeping. The sound was filled with so much sorrow it chilled the men to the bone. Some of Syarif's crew wanted to turn back immediately, but the Sultan held firm. On the second night, the weeping returned, but this time it was different. It grew louder, and the sorrow began to curdle into something else, something mocking. The weeping twisted into a high-pitched, manic laugh that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Panic began to set in. Men refused to work. They were convinced the spirit was picking them off one by one, driving them to madness before dragging them into the water. The expedition was on the verge of collapse. Syarif Abdurrahman knew he had to act. On the third night, as the terrifying laughter began to echo through the darkness again, he did not flinch. He ordered his men to load the ship's cannon. He stood at the bow of his ship, peering into the blackness, trying to pinpoint the source of the demonic sound. He raised his hand, took aim, not with his eyes, but with his conviction, and gave the order, "Fire!" And then, nothing. The laughter was gone. The silence that followed was more profound than any sound. The spirit had been vanquished. To prove his victory and to permanently claim the land, Syarif ordered his palace to be built on that exact spot where the ghost fell silent. And as for the name of his new kingdom, he named it in honor of his first supernatural enemy, Pontianak. And this is where the story gets really interesting. The historical records and the local legend are clear. Pontianak was named after this confrontation. But it forces us to ask a critical question the old tales never bothered with. Why was she there? Was she simply the spirit of a wronged woman, as the modern myth suggests? A random ghost haunting a random patch of jungle? Or was it something deeper? Consider this. Syarif was an outsider, a colonizer in a sense, building a kingdom on land that had been wild for centuries, land that belonged to the native Dayak people. Some modern historians and folklorists have proposed a different theory, that the Kuntilanak was not a single ghost, but the personification of the land itself, a genius loci, or a guardian spirit of place, resisting the invasion. Her scream wasn't the cry of a monster, but the protest of the jungle, the rage of a native land being tamed and conquered. In this light, the story changes completely. Syarif Abdurrahman isn't just a hero defeating a demon. He's a conqueror silencing the voice of the native land. The story of Pontianak's founding suddenly becomes a chilling metaphor for colonization. Today, Pontianak is a bustling modern city. The legend of its founding is a well-known, almost quirky piece of local identity, but the spirit of the Kuntilanak still looms large in the culture, a permanent resident in the Indonesian psyche. So, we are left with two versions of the same woman, the monstrous man-hating vampire of the movies and the silenced guardian spirit of a lost wilderness, a monster to be feared or a martyr to be understood. The truth, as always, probably lies somewhere in the shadows between the two. The next time you hear a story about a monster, it's always worth asking, who is the one telling the story? And more importantly, whose story is being silenced? What do you believe? Was she a demon or the defender of a lost world? Let me know in the comments, and for more journeys into the world's forgotten legends, make sure you subscribe.